going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're talking about age. Does age matter in fantasy football? Yes, obviously it does, but how much it matters completely depends on the position you're looking at. So today we're going to break that down. First off, quarterback. What you're going to see on the screen here is the number of seasons by age where a quarterback has played at least 10 games and scored 17 or more points per game. And for reference, 17 points per game, that's going to land you around the quarterback 14 or 15 most seasons. So we're saying a high-end quarterback 2 season or better. And as you can see, age does matter. The bulk of these seasons are from the quarterback age 23 to 30, but we do still see production from older quarterbacks, indicating to us, yes, you should prefer younger quarterbacks, but we see a much higher rate of older quarterbacks producing compared to other positions, and that should make sense. Quarterback is the least physically demanding position, so not only do these guys just typically have fewer severe injuries, but even if they do, and even if they do fall off physically, they're still going to produce at an elite level if they're an elite quarterback, even if they're not quite as fast as they were when they're younger, because it just doesn't matter as much. At the other positions, yeah, when speed starts to fall off, you're cooked. Another very important point I want to make here is that there are a lot fewer quarterbacks that have actually played at older ages. Every year, we see new rookie quarterbacks, meaning that the pool of quarterbacks aged 23 to 28 is just very large, but the amount of quarterbacks that make it to 33, 34, 35 years old is fairly low. That means when a quarterback does make it to an older age and is still a starter, they actually have a pretty good chance of being a productive fantasy quarterback because we clearly know they're talented enough to survive in the league that long. And that's exactly what this next graphic is showing. This is the main graphic we're going to look at for all of the other positions because it highlights the likelihood of a spike season on a per player basis. There are more young players in the league than there are older players. So if you just look at totals, of course the younger players are going to have more productive seasons in total because there are more of them. What this graphic shows is that there's really no clear range for elite production at quarterback. If anything, maybe targeting the older quarterbacks makes a lot of sense because, these are the players who have remained in the league for a very long time. And so obviously there is some level of underlying talent. And if people are going to fade them because they're older, well, that just creates an advantage for you. Now, I don't want to get things twisted. Age matters far less at quarterback than other positions. We still, though, want younger quarterbacks that are super athletic. That age range of like 22 to 27, there's a spike there. There does seem to be some sort of spike in production. And when we have these hypermobile quarterbacks capable of not only going to 17, 20 points per game, but getting to 24, 25 points per game, that is, of course, still super valuable. I think the larger takeaway at quarterback is that you can still worry about the older ones. I still think it's a great idea to target the young athletic guys, but it is also beneficial if they're just not really available at a point in the draft that you're comfortable taking them to wait a really long time, take a steep discount on some older quarterbacks that people are fading because of age, because we've seen on a per quarterback basis, it doesn't really matter. You can kind of target quarterback at whatever range you want. At tight end, of course, age matters a little bit more. What you see on the screen now, of course, number of tight ends by age to play at least 10 games and score 11 or more points per game. 11 points per game, that's going to put you at like the tight end 7 or 8 on the season, higher than the cutoff for quarterback. But I just did that because having a lower end tight end doesn't mean anything. The tight end 12 through 23 is basically the same thing. Once you get into the back half of tight end 1s, high end tight end 2s, you're just streaming tight end at that point. It truly does not matter at all. So I wanted to see, does age matter on hitting on that tail end of a mid-range tight end 1, the end of the tight ends that actually matter in fantasy scoring, the ones that are actually meaningful on your team. And the data shows that it does on two fronts. First, there is a ramp up. So there are plenty of 22, 23-year-old tight ends in the NFL, but they score 11 or more points per game at a fairly low rate. This is something we've known for a very long time. Tight end is a brutal position to transition into in the NFL. And so it just takes some of these guys, even the really good ones, a little bit to break out. So we see a ramp up to start their careers and then a big spike at 25 years old before dropping off as they get older. Now, again, this can be somewhat misleading. Some tight ends are just not that good. And so you have a lot of tight ends get drafted, maybe signed, undrafted free agents, play out the rookie deal, and then get cut and don't play anymore. So to account for this, you got to look at things on a per tight end basis. And when we do that, the story changes a little bit. 25 is still the start of elite production bump for tight ends. But on a per tight end basis, you're better off targeting older tight ends, basically all the way up to 34 years old. After 34, sample size is super low. Only one tight end ever has 14 or more points per game at 35 or older. So the story for tight end is like similar to that of quarterback, where they don't see a massive drop off in production as they age. And if anything, when they hit that 30 to 34 range, they remain fairly productive because the tight ends who are actually playing at that age are really good. They have proven to be elite producers that teams want to put out there. So you know when you're investing in that player, they have to drop off a lot physically because we know that they're a good player, as opposed to a younger guy. It's like, yeah, they might not drop off physically, but do we even know if they're that good? In fact, the exact same number of 30-year-old tight ends have scored 11 or more points per game compared to 23-year-old tight ends. And that's despite nearly twice as many 23-year-old tight ends in the data set, right? Like there's just been a lot more seasons for 23-year-old tight ends, but the same number of them have hit 11 or more points per game as 30-year-olds. If a tight end is good enough to be starting in the NFL, good enough to be on our radar in fantasy into their low 30s, there is nothing to suggest that they are too old to produce a high-end season. This is a huge win for someone like George Kittle this season, who a lot of people are actually fading because he turns 32 during the season. The data points to that being of zero concern, though, so absolutely target him in drafts. Other tight ends that stand out to me based on this data are Trey McBride, who enters his age 25 season. Sam Laporta turns 25 in January. So technically, I think they're going to count it as his age 24 season, but it's super close. And if they make the playoffs, he'll be playing at 25 years old. And then Isaiah Likely as well, also his age 25 season. For older tight ends, Evan Ingram, people might be fading him because he turns 31. That's not a big worry. Mark Andrews, he's turning 30. And then Dallas Goedert is his age 30 season as well. Other tight ends, of course, are going to fall into these buckets, but those are kind of the tight ends that I personally think the data just favors. Again, McBride, Laporta, and Likely set up really well in their age 25 season for spikes in production. And then Kittle, Ingram, Andrews, and Goddard. Some people are going to fade them because of their age. That should not be the case. At wide receiver, you guessed it, age matters a whole lot more. If you're looking for a league-winning season at wide receiver, 26 to 31 is the optimal range. At 26 years old, that has the highest total 17 plus points per game seasons and 20 plus points per game seasons. And on a per wide receiver basis, that is the first year with a positive share over expectation. 23, 24, 25-year-old wide receivers, they still make up a really strong share of the total seasons. It's just that those three also have the most total wide receivers. And so your odds of actually hitting on a wide receiver in that group is just lower than when they get older. That's not to discourage you from drafting someone like Malik Neighbors, Puka, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd, London, etc., Rashee Rice. Like, these guys are good. We know they're going to be good. We know they're great talents. Don't avoid them because they're not 26 years old yet. What I would say is it points to being a little bit more careful in targeting breakouts in like the mid to late rounds, we know that when a wide receiver goes out there year 1, year 2, and they are awesome, they're going to hit at a very high rate, and you shouldn't be avoiding them in drafts because they're young. But if we're trying to predict young breakouts and we're like, ooh, this guy's, 23, 24, maybe he can kind of hit for this team, sometimes we need to pump the brakes there and be like, okay, have they produced anything in the past? And if the answer is no, sometimes we want to just wait until they're a little bit older, hit that age 26, then we can look a little bit more towards the breakout. And if you look at 17 plus points per game, it's still totally viable to target a wide receiver up until 34 years old. The total hit rate is going to be lower because the total number of wide receivers playing at that age is much lower. But if we look at a per wide receiver basis, you can do that at 17 plus. There have actually been the same number of seasons of 17 or more points per game from 22-year-old wide receivers as there has been 32-year-old wide receivers. In terms of 20 plus points per game though, so 17 is like a really, really, really strong year. 20 plus is more that like league winning. That's going to put you probably in the top 5, maybe top 5 to 7 in a really good year. It's production where it's like, I hit on wide receiver. If you're looking for that level of production, 31 is a fairly clear cutoff. There's very little success past 32, or I guess past 31. 32 years and older, not a ton of success in league winning season. So if that's what you're aiming for, again, 26 to 31 is the best range. If you're okay with more like low end 1, high end 2 production, it is totally fine to target wide receivers until they hit 34 years old. Given this, some 26-year-old wide receivers, I use 26 because again, that's the first year of where we see that spike in production. And there's also just a crazy amount of total wide receivers that have been 26 years old that have hit in terms of 17 and 20 points per game season. So 26-year-old wide receivers I like the season: Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico, T. Higgins, Jerry Jeudy. Those are all the names that stand out there. Some wide receivers who are approaching the age cliff, but probably have 1 or 2 more seasons before they actually hit it. And so we should not be fading because of age are Chris Godwin, Deebo Samuel, Courtland Sutton, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley, and Tyreek Hill. Diggs and Mike Evans, they're kind of in like a gray area. They both do turn 32 later this season, but it's later this year. So it's kind of a gray area there. They're probably on the cusp of being out, but maybe have 1 more season. And then Kupp, Devonta Adams, they're more so on the outside looking in, having both already turned 32 years old. Odds that either one of them have a league-winning season, fairly low. Last but certainly not least is probably what everyone's waiting for here, the running back position. Age matters far more at running back than any other position. We also see youth at running back really stands out. The sample size for 21-year-old running backs, fairly low. It's not as common that you are 21 joining the NFL, but even still, the same number of 21-year-old running backs have 17 or more points per game as 31-year-old running backs, and that's despite more than twice as many seasons from an age 31 running back. So you really should not be worried about age unless the running back's like 19 or 20. Then we're like, okay, a little bit young there, but that's super, 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 super uncommon. Don't worry about youth for running backs. They can absolutely have monster seasons. There's also a very clear drop-off in likelihood of an elite season at age 29 to running back. And again, to be clear, that is accounting for the fact that fewer total running backs last to age 29, 30, 31. There is still a clear drop-off. The optimal range for targeting a running back is 21 to 28 years old, with ages 25 and 26 really standing out for monster seasons. And that makes sense, right? When you're 25, 26, it depends when you join the league, but on average, you're looking at year like 2, 3, 4, that kind of range. So you've got your rookie season under your belt. Maybe you're coming off a strong second season. You're entering your prime health-wise. You understand the playbook better, the scheme better. And so you have a spike season. That all makes a lot of sense. By age 29, Most players are declining athletically, which presents itself more at the running back position because it is such a physically demanding position. And the chemistry factor is also diminished. So for older wide receivers, sometimes they lose a little bit of juice, right? But they either have a great rapport with their quarterback, great chemistry there, or they understand zone coverage to a high degree. So even if they don't have good chemistry with their quarterback, they become a reliable outlet for a quarterback because they're so good at finding openings. So even if they maybe can't beat press coverage, beat man press coverage at the rate that they used to, they can't, win on the outside at such a high rate. If they're good against zone, if they're just a smart wide receiver, they've been in the league for a while, if they've got a good rapport with their quarterback because maybe they played for them for a while, they can still be productive older as they drop off. Running backs do not have that luxury. Like if you fall off at running back, it means that you're likely getting hit behind the line of scrimmage more because you're a little bit less burst. You're not breaking away long runs as often. You're not making defenders miss as often. And when all that starts to happen, teams are not going to give you as many touches no matter who you are. So again, anywhere from age 21 to 28, totally fine at the running back position. But if you're targeting a true breakout, a league-winning season, age 25, age 26 absolutely stands out, both from a per running back perspective and then just in terms of total league winners. Like no matter how you look at it, 25, 26 stands out, with age 25 especially standing out for league-winning season. So which running backs to me look good at age 25, 26 this season? 25-year-old running backs that stand out to me are Ken Walker, Kyron Williams, and Chase Brown. 26-year-old running backs that stand out are James Cook, Jordan Mason, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and J.K. Dobbins. Older running backs that the data points to being, a little bit more concerned about, not necessarily that we have to fade 100% of these guys because they're all very good, but that the data shows maybe a couple guys in this list are absolutely going to fall off and be big time busts this season. Joe Mixon, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Aaron Jones, and Derrick Henry. Obviously, there are other running backs that are older, but in terms of running backs people actually want to draft, that's the list that stands out. To close, I want to be very clear about what these lists represent. I'm not saying to fade all of these older running backs. There are guys on that list that I'm absolutely going to draft this season, and some of them are probably going to have really strong years. I hope that happens because, again, some of them I'm definitely drafting. But no running back has ever had 20 or more points per game at 31 years or older, whereas 26 years old is a great range to be targeting an elite season at running back. So maybe we should be buying into Jordan Mason over Aaron Jones in drafts. And while James Conner is 30, not 31, maybe when you're in that range where it's James Conner or DeAndre Swift, maybe given the drop off, we have at age 29 into age 30, maybe there's more credence to fading Conner and going with someone like DeAndre Swift. So it's less about completely crossing a running back off your draft board and more so in just paying attention, when you get into the draft at how old these guys are. And when you're deciding between two players and one of them is 30, 31 years old and the other is 25, 26, maybe just leaning a little bit more towards that 25 or 26-year-old because of the historical success that we have seen at those ages. So I will post all of these graphics in the Discord, completely free to join into that. There'll be a link down in the description box down below. You can download any of them you want, save them to your phone, pull them up whenever you want. Again, that's linked in the description box down below. Please leave a like if you made it this far. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and I'll catch you guys all on Monday for another episode of Mock Draft Monday.